I held off making this video for like quite a while now because I thought most of it would have just blown over. But there's some things that have come to my attention in like the past few months that I feel like I need to address about it, because I feel like there's like many faults of a certain pink horse that made like videos off of topics, and I'm going to be discussing more in depth with it. So without any further ado, I'm going to move on to one of my main problems with the video, or the video and the live, because both of them are pretty guilty of this thing I'm about to talk about. This is like the first major issue I'm going to bring up. She has such like double standards whenever she criticizes like literally anyone. Like, I recall there was apparently other people were contacting her, and she said she had like, between us and person A, she said she had both sides of the story. But I did not believe that because of how biased her criticism comes off as. And I think it's a great example in the live here.
Yeah, I agree with this part. They shouldn't be saying slurs. Like, if they can't reclaim them. The thing is, from what I can infer, they're probably a child. They're probably a child, guys. And if they're not, they're also probably able to reclaim the specific slur that you're referring to.
These sound like more like excuses she's making up for person B just to make them look more like a victim. First off, Pinkie, how is it that you're gonna state that your research stands on its own two legs, but yet you're gonna make like an inferral, despite the fact that you literally have a screenshot stating the person's age right there? You're telling me your research is so good, yet you overlook this basic information, and you're trying to justify their actions by saying that they're a child. And then you try to run another defense for them by saying, well, they can probably reclaim the slurs that was said. But first off, they weren't saying the slur to themselves. They were calling other people a slur. I'm not too sure why you think it's important to like check if someone can reclaim slurs. It doesn't apply if it's being used against other people and those people aren't comfortable with those slurs being used at them. And the fact that you try to downplay it is pretty disrespectful. Dare I say it's probably biased in the favor of person B, just to make them look a bit more like a victim. Because first off, why would them being a child really matter? If you're going to judge that on the way that they talk, that is not a very good judgment to make and not a very good conclusion to come to. Second off, I recall you making like this is pretty funny and ironic and pretty hypocritical, but you literally made a post saying that you took down one of your live streams because someone was saying a slur, and you don't really agree with that, and you still don't. So let me get this straight. This person can use slurs against us, send their fans to harass us, drag other people into like the interpersonal drama that you mentioned. They can do all this stuff to us. And the one part where you draw the line is when we call their content cringe. Like, make it make sense. And wait, isn't the B person you mentioned, don't you have contact with them? Are they not in your server? Were they not in your server by the time you made the live and the video? If they were, that meant you had like every source you could have like gone to. You literally just assumed that they were a child, despite the fact that you still have contact with them. I'm pretty sure they are in your server. You had like all you needed to get the information to actually like make like not even an educated guess that you just could have known. And not only that, you had a screenshot that literally said their age, but for some reason you infer that they are a child despite all the resources you have? What?
I did this because since I joined the community, I felt pressured to constantly be agreeing with you guys, because if not, I had the possibility of...
Wait, what? No. That is not what shadow banning means. You cannot try to pin You being a part of the mob as well on us. You literally had your own choice to participate in something like this. Stop trying to shift the blame over to us because you quote unquote felt pressured. You did this out of your own free will. You participated as well. And not directly, but you were literally pouring fuel into the fire. Like, please stop. And please stop exaggerating stuff like we forced you to do anything. We did not force you to do anything. We didn't force you to kick person B out of your server, despite the fact that we could have said that, but we didn't. We decided to give them, or to give you some advice and give them a chance and just say if they're too problematic, just kick them out of your server. That's all we said. We didn't try to force you to do anything. Stop lying to your viewers. Also, let's just hear from her own words what her definition of shadow banning means.
You will still shadow ban them. You have the power to do that. You have the power to, as a community, come together and ignore this person.
I don't know what your definition of shadow banning means, but mine just says to block someone from a platform. Just because we choose not to watch their videos on YouTube does not mean we shadow ban them. And all the evidence you have proves yourself incorrect. This is how I know you're just saying things that could correlate to each other. And you're just saying them for the sake of saying them. You're not saying them because you have genuine proof and evidence of these things. You cannot just make accusations like this because one sounds the same to the other. You cannot just say that. You clearly did not do your research, and all it had to take was one Google search. Stop just tossing that word around as if it's going to mean something. It isn't going to mean anything, especially when you're just accusing us of these things without actually having evidence. And when I ask you for evidence, your definition that you give me is not correct. You're saying that if we actively choose to ignore this person off of the platform, that means we're shadow banning them. And that's not what it means at all. In fact, by saying this, you're like completely ignoring the community outside of the server you are talking about. You're literally criticizing us for just not wanting to pay attention to their content oftentimes. What? I'm sorry, what? Just because we don't give them attention on their channel at some times? That's what shadow banning is to you? Like, please, if you're watching this and you want to be a commentary channel, don't criticize like Pinkie, because she throws words around so much to the point where it contradicts her own points that she makes sometimes. And you could tell that the only reason she is saying this is because she wants to drive a narrative. Only stick to the facts you know. Please, do not just try to throw words around because they link to each other in a certain way and try to convince you that they are both very similar or at least the same thing, because in her original video she shows no screenshots or no evidence of this whatsoever, which I believe is incredibly irresponsible. This also contradicts something else you said, because one of the things I recall you saying in this video was to just about the B person, just block them and move on. Well, if we block them, if we all decided to block them, guess what you would have called it?
I told them not to make the video because Dreamy's state of mind, she wouldn't take it well. And that's not because I'm concerned about Dreamy specifically.
Not concerned for Dreamy specifically. Not concerned for Dreamy specifically. Even though a member literally had to tell you to think about the mental health of the victims. Why? You don't need to be reminded of that. Why would you ever say that you're concerned for her mental health when there are people out there whose mental health is way worse because of what she did to them? More specifically, what she did to children. Why are you worried for a child predator's mental health as opposed to the ones she literally groomed?
But it's because she wouldn't take the criticism if given to her in that format.
To be fair, I don't really think the video was... Personally, I don't think the video that they made was really handled the best either. But it also doesn't really excuse the fact that you made like an insane claim. I'm gonna show it right now, but it's right here. Don't see the problem? I'll highlight it right now. Okay, now you see what I see. Basically, Pinkie's logic here is mental disability to where they have the mind of a 15-year-old equals them not being able to know what they are doing is wrong. So basically, she's saying that because of Dreamy's disability, she can't comprehend the difference between right and wrong she can't comprehend morality, basically, which is such an ignorant claim, because you don't stop acting like you know this for sure. You were on one call with her and you're acting like you know everything about her. She lies about literally almost everything. What makes you think she isn't lying about that as well? What did she even say or do for you to infer this or claim this at all? She can't understand what she's doing is wrong. How are you able to know that? This is just you assuming things again. How exactly are you did you even have contact with any of the victims to at least get their story? How exactly were you able to infer this? This is such an irresponsible and just stupid inferment. Why would you ever say something like this? Your inferment literally just you're trying to make other people feel sympathetic for some reason. And you're trying to make them feel guilty for something you literally tried to make them sympathize for a confirmed child predator. And you tried to defend them by saying they can't understand what they're doing is wrong based off of one call. That's an incredibly irresponsible claim. And if you're going to criticize other people for how they handled it, you should be criticized as well, because you're the only one who has ever ran this hard of a defense. By the way, this was never true. Pretty sure, 90% sure, Dreamy just lied to Pinkie when she was on call with her. But for some reason, Pinkie just took everything she said to heart. For some reason, she's gonna reach out to the confirmed child predator to get a perspective on it. However, when she makes her video in her live, she doesn't really reach out to anyone to get any sort of other perspectives. She especially did not do that for person B. She did not get a perspective on person B. She just immediately assumed they were the victim because of how they were being talked about in the problematic people chat. And that's why she kind of comes off as biased. Also, let me make something very clear real quick. There's a huge difference between not being able to accept criticism and not having the mental capacity to understand what you're actually doing is wrong. Well, only one applies to Dreamy, and the only one that applies to her is the fact that she cannot take criticism. And one of the reasons why Pinkie did not want the video made on her was because she wouldn't be able to take criticism. This is completely irrelevant. I don't know why she said this. Dreamy cannot take criticism in general. If you tell her something that she's doing is wrong, she's going to try and make excuses for it. Want to know one of the main excuses she uses whenever she's confronted with evidence of her grooming other people? One of her main defenses is that her brain is not fully developed yet. I'm assuming this is kind of related to when Pinkie mentioned that she was on call with Dreamy. I guess she got evidence that she only had the mind of a 15-year-old and therefore can't really comprehend what she's doing is wrong. All the defenses that Dreamy uses whenever she's confronted with evidence of her grooming has to deal with her mental state. Doesn't that sound like a very, very familiar defense?
Like, it's really bad that you're calling me you're calling me a predator sympathizer.
X never said that. She never said, oh, Pinkie defended what Dreamy did. That's never what she said, so I don't know why you got pressed all of a sudden. Of course, she could have worded it better, but she never said that. So I don't know why you're saying that all of a sudden. Also, you aren't one. But that doesn't change the fact that you still tried to get people to sympathize with child predator. Still does not change the fact of what you did. Despite knowing about Dreamy beforehand, if you knew a lot about Dreamy beforehand, you should have known that they oftentimes lie most of the time. But for some reason, you never really kept this in mind. I still don't know what she did to convince Pinkie that she has the mind of a 15-year-old, and even if she does have the mind of a 15-year-old, it still wouldn't matter. But Pinkie tries to make it matter. I get that she said it to be informative and stuff, but I don't think she really said it in a very responsible way, because it turned out that her mental state didn't even matter at the time.
Yeah, that's why I didn't mention them though. The thing is, you brought it up. You brought it up in your own video.
This, how she acts right here, kind of made me feel sick to my stomach. I don't know if it's just me or if it's just the fact that she was just going to use this person as like an example of what not to say about someone, even considering the fact that they're not even in the Sans fandom anymore. At least I hope they're not. But literally, what she was about to do is she was about to criticize a bunch of like people in the server, because that's like the only people she criticizes. Imagine the people in the server who like mainly affected by the V person, and there's someone who tells you, oh, you talking bad about them is so wrong. Why would you ever do something like that? I don't like it when people do that, because why are you trying to tell them how to deal with their past? That's kind of what it feels like. It's the fact that she was thinking about doing it and thought she was going to be justified in doing it. But since the only reason she didn't put the V person in the video was because she couldn't find anything bad we said about them. Onward to the next one.
I will admit my research was probably made very quickly. But the thing is, the things that I did research, like, they stand. They stand on their own two legs. Like, there's no denying that the screenshots that I took stand on their own two legs.
The section that contains you talking about the B person is very biased. So to correct you, some of your research is biased. Just thought I'd say that, because it's in favor of person B and trying to make them look like a victim, even though they're not. They've done worse things to us. We didn't make a video on them. You don't really tell everything that has happened between us, and you really don't know the history. You're clearly very misinformed about certain things, and I think you should have reached out to some people about the full history on the B person especially, because they would have given you like a more in-depth like explanation for it. In fact, why didn't you just do that? Why didn't you just ask anyone for like an in-depth explanation on why we didn't like person B? You never asked for that. You just asked what was wrong, and we just said they were problematic for a few stuff. They've done way more stuff than us, but we didn't really make a video on it because we didn't really want to escalate the situation.
What crucial information did I leave out? Like, honestly, tell me. DM me, because I want to know. I'll include them. I'll include the context if you have any.
Considering you weren't very receptive to criticism when me or, user B reached out to you to tell you certain things, you weren't very receptive to that criticism, and it's not like you're really going to change anything now. So I see no point in that. It's a bit frustrating to have someone that has so much confidence just because they found this much evidence, and whenever I point out specific mistakes she makes, she tries to sort of turn it around and try to make like an ignorant claim too, because I remember when I was talking to her in the DMs, she was all like, oh, well, if you guys are going to ignore this person's content, I think, like, and one thing I hate how she is trying to characterize X's server as this, like, popular kids club that has, like, this hierarchy of where they decide who gets to come in and who doesn't. I hated that so much. And even she knows that isn't true, because she doesn't even have any evidence to prove that specific point. She keeps trying to reiterate the point that there is this, like, tight group inside of the server that just, it's like they're trying to accept like a hierarchy. She's trying to talk about it as if there's like some sort of hierarchy when that's not what it is. And she's so wrong about this too. And she thinks, mind you, she's had time before this. Like, she said her research was done in 1 day, but that she has like all the proof she could ever need. But that's not true. She doesn't even have like any part of that. And want to know the worst part? When I pointed out that she has no evidence, I asked for screenshots in the DMs and she didn't send me a single one. Do you know what that tells me? That tells me that she is way too overconfident in her claims, to the point where she can't realize that making false claims against someone without any evidence is harmful to that person, not only to their person, but to their character too, because people are going to start making assumptions about X's server. And I understand that we're not completely in the right here and we made mistakes. The difference is that we actually acknowledge our mistakes and we try to improve ourselves. Pinkie has not done any of that. She didn't try to acknowledge, like, maybe, just maybe, she shouldn't make claims against someone like that without any sort of evidence. Maybe she should just keep that out of the video, especially if she has no proof of that. I understand I sound a bit hypocritical because of my last video where I made like this point where this person, we claimed we reached out to them and we even include them in some of my videos. I don't have proof of that because when I went to go get the screenshots, the account originally associated with person B, that main one, got deleted, and so did the video that it was on. So I had nothing to refer back to. And also, she tries to make out shadow banning as if it's like we're blocking this person from like the entire platform. But when she actually describes what it is, not only is it so backwards, and the worst part is that she doesn't even know what it actually means. I already put the description of it here, and there's a part of the video where she said that the specific reason why she held off making the video was because she was scared about getting shadow banned from Exit server. She was so scared. Tell me, dear viewer, why this Pinkie has like over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Why would someone like her care if like 8 or 10 people refuse to watch her videos? Do you know how many views her videos get on average? Why on earth would she care if we watch stuff on her channel or not? You see why this makes no sense, and how she's just saying these things at the top of her head just to further like villainize everyone in the server and make them have like these thoughts about people in Exit server? She's just saying things that she knows nothing about. And when I prove her otherwise, she tries to turn it around and just ends up kind of repeating herself in the DMs. It's just frustrating when you're trying to get someone to admit to a specific mistake that they made and they just never do it because they believe in it so much. And I get that she doesn't have to listen to criticism because that's part of her own belief. But if it's to the point where you know you're in the wrong because you have no evidence of these things, it's not confidence. It's being hard-headed and ignorant when you refuse to acknowledge some of the things you did is wrong. Some of the people in the server acknowledge what they did is wrong and they're trying to improve themselves right now. But for some reason, when I try to get Pinkie to admit to this one mistake of her shadow banning claims, she just does not do it. That's pretty ignorant. Also, it's really uncomfortable how she tries to like victimize Dreamy specifically. Like the 2 examples I put out earlier where she was like trying to make it seem like Dreamy was like partially sympathetic because she couldn't understand what she was doing is wrong, even though how did she come to that conclusion? But it's not just that. It's like that stupid, pity comment she has about us apparently making fun of Dreamy because she had a seizure. That's not what it was. Pinkie, we don't give a crap what mental stuff you have going on. Like, she has been confronted before, and she has lied several times. Whether she had a seizure or not, the point of us making fun of her was that she was trying to use it as an excuse to get away from the grooming allegations. Because believe it or not, every time someone has confronted her with this, she's always had the same answer. Oh, I don't remember this or that. Isn't it just convenient that whenever she's like confronted with grooming allegations, she always has to say something that relates to like her mental state? Using it as an excuse maybe? And like I said before, you could put Dreamy and Pinkie as an example. Because, believe it or not, there was at least one time where Pinkie and Dreamy both made excuses for themselves, or for Dreamy specifically, because of ding ding ding, their mental state. So maybe Pinkie, just maybe, the reason we're making fun of her wasn't because she had a seizure, but it was because she was trying to use her disability as an excuse to get away from the grooming allegations. And notice how Pinkie never says that outright. The only thing she criticizes is how we made fun of her. She never, ever, like, holds Dreamy accountable for trying to use her disability as an excuse. Do you want to know why? Because Pinkie tried to use her disability as an excuse to convince everyone else that she didn't know what she was doing is wrong, even though she is wrong. That's the worst thing ever. Like, why would you, oh my gosh. And it's a fact for me that in her live, she references this, but she words it like really, really differently. She words it really, really differently.
I told them not to make the video because Dreamy's state of mind, she wouldn't take it well.
I remember a segment in live where she's all like, well, I was there with you guys when you guys were compiling evidence against Dreamy. Well, yeah, that is true. But if you were there, you know that it's not that she can't handle it. It's that she chooses not to handle it. She chooses not to acknowledge her mistakes. And she will try everything, and I mean almost everything, to make you feel bad for her so you stop criticizing her. She is willing to like guilt trip people by like suicide baiting, and it's disgusting. That is disgusting. And if she's willing to use like suicide as like a leverage, a way to get away from criticism, what makes you think she's not willing to use almost any, and I mean everything else she could think of to make you feel bad for her. And let me make something very, very clear to you, Pinkie. Do your research better, because if you were aware of Dreamy beforehand and you were there gathering evidence with them, you were there collecting the screenshots, and almost every time she made an excuse, she would always be about her mental state. Why on earth would you try? First off, I think that you being on a call with her to get information is like kind of questionable. But why on earth would you try to like make everyone feel bad and say that it's because of her mental state? That feels like you're like, I know you're not trying to, but it feels like you're kind of downplaying the whole thing. And it feels like you're kind of sympathizing with her a bit too much just because of her mental state. I don't care what her mental state is. You shouldn't sympathize a child predator just because of what is going on with them mentally. That doesn't like justify you. Like, I really, really do not know what went on in her head when she said that. Listen, I feel bad for calling person B's content cringy. I feel bad for that because despite all they've done, I know that they don't deserve it. But why are you trying to make us feel bad about calling Dreamy's content cringe? I don't get why. Okay, first off, one, she's a child predator. I don't get why we should try to treat her with this, like, respect. I understand you criticizing the live for them making fun of her content because it's unprofessional. I don't think they should have done that. But it's another when they're doing it in, like, the server. I don't get why you got so worked up over everyone else calling their content cringy. I think you're just pitying them because of their mental disability, and I don't think that's right. I think you should really correct yourself when it comes to saying stuff like that. It's one thing calling person B's content cringy, but stop trying to make us feel bad for Dreamy. Who cares about her content being cringe? Who cares? Who honestly cares? I'm not just saying this because no one else cares, but who is actually going to care? She's not even in the fandom anymore. No one cares. We don't really have, like, very good feelings about person A. In case you don't know who I'm talking about, she had, like, this screenshot where the people in the server were confused of how you can be slightly autistic. That person, if we explained why we didn't like them, we'd be on, like, I'd have to introduce, like, another person because that was kind of like a catalyst into why we didn't like them. But basically, to explain that screenshot, we were sort of like watching them from the server. We would like view their content from time to time. And the one thing they did that didn't really make everyone feel right in the server was how they portrayed like their character. I'm not going to say the name of their character, but their character had a specific disability that most people in the server had themselves. And they didn't really like it when they were portraying it in a very stereotypical manner. And in case you don't believe me, I'm going to show something. Fun fact, Blank, despite being autistic, is about average intelligence. And their autism is often mistaken for shyness by others who may not know Blank has autism. So dear viewer, please tell me, if you are autistic, are you below average intelligence? Like, do I have to say anything? Like, I'm not publicly calling this person out. They're not a bad person. But the way they portrayed disabilities made the people in the server with the same disabilities or multiple symptoms of them me feel uncomfortable. And Pinkie tried to make some dumb excuse by saying, oh, well, just let them portray how they want. Oh, we'll just let them, like, if there are people watching this person's channel and they see disabilities being portrayed like that, they're going to think that something like that applies in real life. What if they don't know the difference between someone who is, like, has that disability on the internet, like an OC, and someone who has a disability in real life? Those people are going to stereotype it, and it's going to be presented as a harmful stereotype because they're going to have thoughts about autistic individuals that don't apply to them. Like, okay. There isn't too much else to go on about, so I think I'm just going to end the video here. Like I said in the starting, please do not harass anyone involved, even if you know who they are. Please do not go and harass them. And Like I said, if you want to contact me, I put my Discord username in the starting and in the description. And if there's any sort of questions you have to ask me, don't feel shy to reach out to me. And I have like a little announcement I want to make. I am growing up into an adult now, so I'm going to have more adult responsibilities. I do have a main channel, but I don't think I'm going to reveal it just yet. I might reveal it like sometime, but I'm probably going to be less active. It's not like I'm going to quit or anything. I at least want to conclude my story before like the time on here really ends, but yeah. I'll see you guys again. Bye.